Reedsburg would not be the community that it is today if the railroad had not been built right through the heart of it. The train brought materials and people, and allowed people in Reedsburg to ship and sell what they grew and made. We have a man by the name of Colonel Abelman who had settled near what is now Rock Springs to thank for our local rail service. Previous to his efforts, rail companies had avoided this area for development, but in 1869 he organized a group of local citizens, and they petitioned heavily for the rail service, and in 1870 the legislature approved the line. The Chicago Northwestern Railroad extended its line through Reedsburg, and on New Year's Day in 1872 the first train came to town. The first Reedsburg depot that was built in 1872 was a wooden depot, and it stood in nearly the same spot where our current depot stands today. It served 9 passenger trains and 2 freight trains as they passed through Reedsburg daily, and served the community until 1906 when the new brick depot was built. In December of 1873, the wooden depot was the site of an attempted deportation and relocation effort of over 30 members of the Ho-Chunk Nation, including the family of Ahuchoga, also known as Chief Blue Wing. These families lived just west of Reedsburg and had developed friendships and business relationships with the white people who had settled in Reedsburg at the time. In particular, Chief Blue Wing was very well respected and was known as a kind man and a good neighbor. So when bounty hunters and government soldiers came in the middle of the night to forcibly remove Ho-Chunk families and take them by boxcar to a reservation in Nebraska, nearly 300 Reedsburg area citizens came to the depot and took a stand against the government soldiers and ultimately forced them to retreat. Although some of the families were still removed, the family of Chief Blue Wing was allowed to stay. When the news of this rebellion spread across the country through telegraph, telegram, and newspaper, word spread to state and national leaders who feared retaliation in other communities, and within just a year the United States government abandoned their 40-year-old policy of Native American relocation. It has always been the belief that the citizens of Reedsburg were a part of that important change. Many years later, the current depot was given the designation of being on both the National Register of Historic Places by the Department of the Interior and the State Register of Historic Places by the State of Wisconsin Historical Society because it stands on the site of this important protest. Our current brick depot was built in 1905 and opened in January of 1906. Prior to its construction, the wooden depot was moved east just a few hundred yards and was used as a freight depot until 1961. The new brick depot was 119 feet long and cost $30,000 to build. It was built during the Beaux Arts period, which is a French term meaning beautiful or fine, and that is certainly true. It is still admired for its beautiful archway, large windows, high ceilings, handcrafted woodwork, and terrazzo floor. But one of the most impressive spots in the building is the ticket office, which still features the original ticket window. There is also a set of bay windows that overlooks the railroad track outside the ticket office, and it is easy to imagine all of the people who must have been in and out of the depot over the years, as it was often the hub of activity in town. At the time of construction, the depot contained a ticket office, waiting room, smoking room, restrooms, and a baggage room. Almost every feature in the building is still original. Rail travel became very popular in the 1930s, and the trains that passed through Reedsburg were almost always filled to their 486-person capacity. Reedsburg reached a point where there were 12 passenger trains passing through Reedsburg daily, and inside the depot there were 7 men on duty. On September 24th, 1939, the Chicago Northwestern Railroad Company introduced two new high-speed trains that were being assigned the route between Chicago and the Twin Cities, and the trains were named the 400 and the 401 because they could make the 419-mile trip in 405 minutes, which is 6 3/4 hours, with 7 stops along the way. They were allowed a speed of 100 miles per hour on straight track. Included in the 10-car trains were a stewardess car, a tavern lunch counter car, a lounge car, several coaches, a dining car, parlor cars with drawing rooms, and an observation parlor car with lounge and bar. It wasn't until the late 1950s when freeways and airplanes caused drastic reductions in passenger train use that the number of trains going through Reedsburg decreased, and by the end there were only 2 passenger trains, one in the morning and one at night. The old wooden depot was removed in 1961, and it was at that time that the railroad started talking about discontinuing passenger service between Chicago and the Twin Cities. With only 1 day's notice to officials in Reedsburg, the Chicago Northwestern passenger train service ended in Reedsburg on July 23, 1963. The brick depot closed to rail service in 1971, and by 1979, the depot was showing advanced signs of decay. In the early 1980s, fearing a complete loss of what had once been a beautiful historic building, a local businessman purchased the depot and put a new roof on it, ultimately saving this important landmark. Prior to the grand opening of the 400 State Trail in June of 1993, which was named in honor of the trains who ran on this rail line, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources purchased the depot and made some necessary repairs and improvements while still maintaining the historic authenticity of the building. The DNR then invited the Reedsburg Area Chamber of Commerce to move their office into the depot to serve as the trailhead of the newly developed trail. This partnership still continues today. The 400 Trail soon became a popular tourist destination which attracts people from all over the country and was later noted to be arguably the prettiest trail in the state of Wisconsin by National Geographic Adventure magazine. Running 22 miles west between Reedsburg and Elroy, the trail offers beautiful scenery, a wide variety of wildlife, and frequent stopping points. Users of the trail appreciate the convenience of having the communities of Laval, Waniwak, and Union Center along the way, each offering its own special amenities. The 400 Trail is a beautiful and flat trail that makes it enjoyable for people of all ages, and it is visited by an estimated 45,000 people each year. Reedsburg would be a much different city had the train gone around the community. The railroad was a very important part of American history, and the impact was felt in Reedsburg just as it was in every small town that the railroad came through. While we appreciate the benefits of having a popular state-owned trail in our community, rail service continues to be vitally important for several of our large industrial park members who continue to ship and receive freight on a weekly basis, and rail service currently supports over 3,000 jobs in Sauk County today. The Chicago Northwestern Depot in Reedsburg continues to attract visitors who love history or who are lifelong train enthusiasts. Now in its second century, it stands strong in tribute to the mothers who sent their sons to war, to the people who rode the train to visit family, and to the farmers who shipped their corn and wheat across the miles. While it is a part of our history, it is also part of our future, as new generations admire the beauty and the history of the depot, and it is a story that we are proud to be able to share. We invite you to visit the Reedsburg Depot when you have an opportunity. It is a treasure to be enjoyed by all generations.